morning, everyone. Just hello, ma'am. হ্যাঁ ম্যাম। হ্যাঁ, ওগুলো আমরা পেয়েছি। হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ। না, ওটা ডিরেক্টর স্যার দেবেন বলেছেন। হ্যাঁ, 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 হুম, হ্যাঁ, 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 হ্যাঁ। ঠিক আছে ম্যাম। না, আইসো। হ্যাঁ, 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 হ্যাঁ। না, সেটা নেই আমাদের। হ্যাঁ, হুম, হুম, হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ। ঠিক আছে ম্যাম। হ্যাঁ, ওকে ম্যাম। ঠিক আছে। হ্যাঁ, থ্যাংক ইউ ম্যাম। Hmm. Hello. Sorry for the interruption. Good morning to everyone. Okay.
Good morning.
It's after a long gap. Okay. Let's start this topic. So today we are going to start this chapter. This is basically from. It's again from the mastering in cloud computing. So it's energy efficiency in cloud environment. Okay. So first of all, we have already discussed different layers and how they are working. Okay. So how the services are being provided in different layer. Like we have different types of services. You are already familiar with infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. So we are going to understand that what does it mean by energy efficiency? Why energy efficiency is very important? So to start with, can you recall the data center network structure? If we consider factory or VL2 network structure we have discussed earlier, in those cases if you can recall, then the network structure is basically a hierarchical. It's a tree structure. Okay, but it's not a simple binary tree kind of thing. So we have multiple uh, redundant connections, so that at any moment if one of these connection fails, then the data transfer can be performed without any interruption. So any alternative route will be determined within very short time. Okay, so user will not be interrupted. যা খুশি করো না, আমাকে ছাড়ো। So here, so in data center network we have tree structure. So when a user is submitting their request, so the request can be either any kind of software as a service or platform as a service, or the request for infrastructure as a service. So these requests are being submitted to any cloud controller. Now from that cloud controller, the request will be actually forwarded to some physical machine where actually the computation will be performed. Okay. So cloud environment, so we have a physical data center network. Now on top of it we have installed any kind of cloud computing environment. So in that environment the computation is being performed actually in virtual machine. So even if it's a software as a service request, to run this software as a service, then we are deploying it in virtual machines. Okay, so users are not getting access to the virtual machine directly. In case of software as a service, users request is being routed to proper virtual machine where the actual computation is being performed. The same thing happens in case of platform as a service. Here user is getting more control over the platform. In case of software as a service, user can request for a specific web service which is running there. But in case of platform as a service, user is responsible, they have control over the application. So they can deploy it, they can undeploy it, modify the application which is running in the cloud environment. And we know that in case of virtual machine, users are directly accessing the virtual machine and they have full control over the virtual machine. But in every kind of service, the underlying resources is basically the physical resources. So it's a data center where actually the whole thing is running. Okay, now why we need to think of energy efficiency? The reason is, to run a data center, huge computation is required, and for this huge computation, huge electricity or energy or power is required. Okay, so this power is significantly high. Like in 1920, in the last year, the energy consumption of the data centers which are deployed in USA is approximately 4.2% of the total energy consumption of USA. Now you can understand that how much energy is being consumed by the data centers. Though most of the data centers in the worldwide most of the data centers are installed in USA, and total, I can't remember the exact figure, but it's more than 30%. It's within some range of 30 to 36%, but I can't remember the exact number in the last year. So this is the total this is the ratio of the data centers if we divide it country wise. Now in USA, the total energy consumption of the data center is 4.2% approximately. There are different reports, but in most of the report it suggested that it's more than 4%, and one standard report says that it's a 4.2%. So you can understand that how much enormous computation is required and how much energy is being consumed by the data center. Okay, now we need to provision the resources in data center in such a way that the resource consumption, basically the energy consumption, can be reduced. So to reduce energy consumption, we have to consolidate the resources in a data center in such a way so that minimum number of active servers are running. Okay. In a data center, we may have few thousands of servers or physical hosts. Out of these thousands of servers, if we can deploy the virtual machines, we can rearrange the virtual machines in such a way that the number of active physical machines are being reduced, then it will be very helpful to reduce the overall energy consumption of the data center. Okay, just to understand that, let me show you with one just formulation that will help you to understand that how this energy is being reduced. Give me just a minute. Is this presentation or PPT is visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. So let's try to understand that the energy consumption of a physical machine. Okay. So if we talk about energy consumption of a physical machine, say its energy consumption. Now this energy consumption is being calculated. There are different power model, but the simplest one is this one, where energy consumption is energy at idle time of the server. So even if in a physical machine there is no virtual machine running, so the physical machine is completely idle, no additional computation is being performed. So when this physical machine is idle, then some energy will be consumed due to running the host operating system and the huge infrastructure. Okay, because huge resources are already installed in that machine. So we know that even if in a machine, just I'm giving you an example, that in your machine if you have 16 GB RAM and having the same other configuration, if you have only 4 GB RAM, then for this additional 12 GB RAM, significantly the energy consumption is significantly high. It consumes huge energy even if you are not performing any operation in that machine. The system is just, you have booted the system is ready to run, but no job is deployed yet. The system is completely idle. So this hardware resources, this memory which are installed, they consume huge energy. Okay, so in idle state, a server will consume a significantly high energy. It's approximately 15 to 30%. It's basically 15 to 30%. It depends on the hardware resources of the physical machine. Okay, so this is the energy consumption at idle state. Now, what will be the energy consumption? So for a physical machine, obviously there is a peak energy. So if the system is 100% utilized, so that energy can be calculated. So if we calculate this energy, the value is En max. So En max minus En idle, this is the energy consumption which is dependent on utilization. Okay, so if the utilization of that physical machine at time t is ut, then this is the energy consumption at a certain instant. Okay, so at time t, this is the energy consumption of the physical machine. Okay, so even if the system, if we just run all the machines in our data center, you have just started the machines, so we have just booted the machine, that means the host operating system is running, so the machine is considered as an active state. So if the machine is in active state, even if it is not performing any task or any job, then it will consume the energy which is required at idle time. So our objective is to provision the resource in such a way so that the energy consumption of the data center can be reduced. So we have to provision the resources. That means we have to consolidate the resources in such a way that the number of active physical machines can be reduced. Okay. So if the number of active physical machines are reduced, then overall energy consumption of the data center can be reduced. So in that way, there are different algorithms by which this resource provisioning is decided, that which virtual machine needs to be deployed in which physical machine. Okay, so we are coming back to our slide. So when a user's request will be submitted in a cloud environment, then in the cloud data center we have to provision the resources in this way. Okay, so that energy consumption of the data center can be reduced. So what to do and how to do it? So I'm giving you few more examples that will probably help you to understand. Say this is a cloud environment. I'm just considering a very simple cloud environment. Okay. So now the node controllers are connected here. These are the node controllers which are connected. So we have a data center network. Now just using switches, say these are the connections. Sorry. Now if a virtual machine is being deployed, if we deploy a virtual machine, then the virtual machine will actually run in a physical machine. Okay. So if we use round robin technique, which is a very well known technique for resource allocation, if we use round robin technique, then VM1, so this is physical machine 1, physical machine 2, 3, 4, in that way. So say there are m number of physical machines. Now if we deploy some virtual machine and if we follow round robin technique, then one virtual machine, say it's a virtual machine 1 is being deployed here, virtual machine 2 is being deployed here, virtual machine 3, in that way they are being deployed. So when these virtual machines are being deployed, then in round robin technique all the physical machines, so if the number of virtual machine is more than m, that is the number of physical machine, then all the physical machines will be in active state. So huge energy is required for that. So instead of allocating it using this technique, if we follow some other technique, like I will try to allocate the virtual machines in physical machine 1, when the new arrived virtual machine cannot be allocated in P1, then I will allocate it in P2. Okay, so in that way if we allocate it, then the energy can be reduced. Now the things are not going to be so easy. The problem is, now if we want to deploy any application, say it's a software as a service or if it's a platform as a service, even if you have acquired infrastructure as a service or you have installed multiple virtual machines, but your application contains multiple modules, these modules are being deployed in different virtual machines. Now if these virtual machines are deployed in multiple physical machines, then they will communicate with each other. Because if we consider a very simple if we consider a very simple structure, like I have an web application. So this is the web application. Now it has multiple business logic written in different module. So these are communicating with this application server. So this is the web server which is deployed in virtual machine 1. This is application server 1. This is application server 2, and this is application server 3. So I have 3 application servers. So I have deployed application server in virtual machine 2, it is in virtual machine 3, and it is in virtual machine 4. Now I have multiple database instance. Okay, so this is DB server. So this is DB server 1, and say I have another DB server 2. Okay, so I have deployed it in virtual machine 5, and this one is virtual machine 6. Okay, so if these application servers are communicating with this, say application server 1 is also communicating with this, and this one is communicating with this. So if this is the communication, now if you have deployed, so all the virtual machines cannot be deployed in one physical machine based on the resource constraint, because we have the physical machines where we have limited resource. The resources of a physical machine is not infinite, so it's limited. So we can't, maybe it happened that we can't deploy all the virtual machines in one physical machine. Okay, so when we can't deploy all the virtual machines in one physical machine, we have to deploy it into multiple physical machines. Now when we are deploying V1 and V2 into different machine, in different physical machine. So if I deploy, say I'm writing it in some different color so that you can understand. Say I'm deploying virtual machine 1 and 2 in this machine, in physical machine 1, and I'm going to deploy virtual machine 3, 4 and virtual machine 5 in physical machine 2. Okay, and in P3 I am deploying virtual machine 6. So when V1 is communicating, the web application or the web server is communicating with app server 1, they are communicating within the same physical machine. They are installed within the same physical machine. So their communication delay is very minimum. But if V1 is communicating with V3, then communication delay will be significantly high, because the data needs to be transferred through this channel. So the data needs to be transferred through this channel. So communication delay will be significantly high. Now the same thing will happen if a virtual machine which is running in physical machine 1 and another virtual machine which is running in physical machine PM, then if they want to communicate, they will use this channel for their communication. In that case, the communication delay will be much higher than the previous cases. Moreover, each and every link in a network, they have some limited capacity. So generally, in these cases, if we consider this communication channel for TOR, top of rack switches, these links are having basically 1 Gbps network connectivity. Okay, so if it's 1 Gbps network connectivity, say it's a 1 Gbps network connectivity. Now this 1 Gbps connectivity is being shared by multiple virtual machines. Okay, so if huge network traffic is being generated over the network, then communication delay will be affected. So these are the cases. That's why we can't decide, because from the user's perspective we have to think of service level agreement. In service level agreement, if the user has already mentioned for V1 and V3 the communication, this link should be at least 200 Mbps connectivity, they may communicate. So our minimum requirement is, user is mentioning that the minimum requirement between the V1 and V1 and V3, this communication channel is 200 Mbps. So if we want to deploy many virtual machine in one physical machine, then the things may not happen very well. So it may create a scenario where communication delay is increasing, so which may violate the service level agreement between the service provider and the end user. That's why all the virtual machines cannot be consolidated in very few number of physical machines. And during this allocation, we have to think of many aspects. So the scenario is basically where multiple virtual machines are being deployed in one physical machine. So one objective is we are trying to consolidate the virtual machines in minimum number of physical machines, but there are some constraints. There are some constraint of communication links. Okay, so if we allocate many virtual machine in few number of physical machine, their quality of service may be affected, which will not be accepted by the end user or client. That's why they are to be planned and they are to be scattered in some virtual machine, which will help to balance both of these things. Okay, so we will try to reduce number of physical machine, as well as we will try to reduce the communication delay. Okay, so based on different objective, there are different algorithms, but our objective is not to discuss those algorithms. So this is the scenario. So if we want to reduce energy consumption, then these are the things we have to keep in mind. Okay, so coming back to this, so this is the case. Okay, so here within our data center, if we want to allocate the resource, so our objective is to reduce the power consumption. Even if you can reduce, if you can propose some algorithm, the area is open challenge till there. If you can propose any algorithm by which the energy consumption of a data center is being reduced by 2%, that's a significant improvement. Okay, so this is the case. Now another thing we should mention, we have just mentioned that due to computational requirement and memory requirement, or the memory management which we are already we have installed in a cloud data center, they consume huge energy. But you will be surprised probably that the energy consumption for cooling is almost same as the computational energy. In a data center, huge energy is being generated, so it will consume huge electricity. Okay, now when it will consume huge amount of electricity, obviously at the end this electricity ultimately it will be converted to heat. So to keep your data center very close to 0 degree centigrade for optimal performance, we need a good cooling environment. So for this cooling purpose, the energy consumption is almost same as the energy consumption for the requirement for the computation. This is the real case scenario. Okay, so that's why the data centers are mostly installed in some regions where no additional cooling is required, but it has obviously impact on our environment. Many data centers are installed in Greenland and in some subcontinent where naturally the environment is in less than the temperature is less than 0 degrees centigrade. So we don't need additional cooling system. So we don't need to cool this surface by some additional cooling devices. So but the impact is again very high. If we are installing the data centers in those areas, even if additional this cooling system is not required, but the problem is there are some impact on the environment and which is affecting the glaciers in both of these poles, because this data center size is very high and their energy consumption is very high. So heat generation from a data center is very high. So that's why sometimes these data centers are being installed under the sea. These are not always on land. These are being sometimes installed at the few kilometers of depth under a sea. So these are the business perspective. Is there anyone who is in? Okay, why this sound is being generated? Can you hear any sound? Some sound like bell.
Yes, sir. There was probably that is from WhatsApp notification.
What's the notification?
Probably, sir.
So there are different proposals in for this solving the problem, and these proposals are already known as green cloud solution. Okay, so the objective of this green cloud solution is basically some algorithm, some architectural changes by which the devices can work in low power. Okay. So our objective is in green cloud solution, the main objective is the reduction of the power consumption, but obviously maximizing the benefit. But the constraints in design is basically the things which you have to consider is the service level agreement with the user and the service provider is never be violated. Okay, so this is basically the energy aspect. Okay, now just to mention one point here, that if we deploy the application or virtual machines in a physical machine, we can't utilize 100% resources of the physical machine. Even if an application is running in a virtual machine, we can't utilize it at 100%. The problem is if we run this virtual machine or the application with 100% utilization, then even if mathematically it may seem that we can maximize our profit, the energy consumption will be less, but practically it becomes the reverse. Okay. So that's why generally the utilization is kept at first 80 to 85%. In case of physical machine, we will try to deploy the virtual machines until 80 to 85% resources of the physical machine is utilized, and similarly we will run the applications in a physical machine till the resource utilization is reaching at 80 to 85%. Okay. Beyond that, if the utilization, if the deployment of some application or deployment of a VM in a physical machine increases the resource utilization than this threshold, then we will not allocate it at that moment. We will try to allocate it in other virtual machine or in other physical machine. Okay. So the equation, the energy consumption, this equation looks like that it's a linear equation, but in reality the equation is not linear. It is dependent on many other factors. Okay. Okay. If you have anything to discuss, we can continue. Otherwise, we will go to the next point.
So the top of that connection is 1 Gbps. If we increase that, then we can accommodate more VMs in a particular PM.
Obviously, in every data center, it's not 1 Gbps. If we install in university, I think you have seen the data center. The server. So there are two rack servers. In those rack servers, the capacity of the link is 1 Gbps. In Amazon, in some old data centers which has been installed few years back, in those data centers few of these links are 1 Gbps, but the new installations they are using 10 Gbps connectivity. Okay, so this how much capacity for a link will be considered during installation, that is dependent on the physical resources of a physical machine. Just I'm giving you one example. If we, where is the mouse? Oh, sorry, again I have to receive a call. Just give me 1 minute. হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, না না বলুন ম্যাম। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হুম হুম হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ সেটাই। হ্যাঁ এটা হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ নাম্বার। হ্যাঁ 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 না আর কিছু লেখার নেই ওই হুম হুম হ্যাঁ আচ্ছা হুম ঠিক আছে আচ্ছা হুম। So let us consider that okay, so here say this is a physical machine. Sorry. Say this is a physical machine. I have another physical machine here. The number of virtual machines that can be deployed. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The number of physical machine, sorry, these are the physical machines. The number of virtual machines which are being deployed in a physical machine, it is dependent on the resource constraint. Resource constraint means if we consider that in this server I have 128 GB RAM and say 256 core processor. This is the capacity. So this is the capacity of physical machine. Okay. Now the virtual machines are being deployed by the users. So if a virtual machine, the first virtual machine has been deployed having 8 GB memory and say 8 core processor. So in that way, how long it will be deployed? So as we have mentioned that we will try to utilize 80 to 85% resources. Okay. So until the resource utilization of a physical machine is reaching 80 to 85%, till then we can deploy new virtual machines in this physical machine. So this is the constraint in terms of CPU and memory. The other constraints are each and every virtual machine. So we are not going to deploy a virtual machine in a physical machine which will run there and it will not interact with outside. So this physical machine is installed and it is connected with a switch, obviously. So the users are communicating through this cloud environment. Users are communicating with this virtual machine which has been deployed by that user. So this virtual machine may require some communication with other virtual machine within the same physical machine, or it may require some communication with the other virtual machines which are deployed in other physical machines. Okay. So these are the cases. Now, even if I consider that a user has deployed one virtual machine in this physical machine, and it is not communicating with other virtual machine, but this virtual machine is performing some task. So performing some task means I have deployed one application in this virtual machine which is analyzing some data. Okay, how this virtual machine will receive the data? It will receive the data from, I have to take input. So the program I have written in this virtual machine, it will take some input and it will generate some output. So obviously for this input and output, it will interact, the data will be transferred through this link. So this link is being shared by multiple virtual machines which are deployed in this physical machine. Now if we have 10 Gbps connectivity, for this 10 Gbps connectivity, then obviously this is a limitation. This is the capacity of the link. So this is a constraint. So we can't allocate too many virtual machines in this physical machine, because at the deployment we have to consider CPU resource, memory resource, CPU memory, as well as the network IO. Okay, so considering all these aspects, we may decide that whether a new virtual machine will be deployed in this physical machine or not. Okay. But from the service provider's perspective, to reduce energy consumption of the data center, they will try to allocate the virtual machines in minimum number of physical machines. From the user's perspective, user will expect the services as per the service level agreement, but achieving both of these objectives are conflicting, because if we want to improve one objective, then another objective is we have to compromise with another objective. So that's why we have to allocate the resources of the physical machines in such a way so that both of these objectives are balanced. Okay, so this is the scenario. Okay, so some other thing is, even if within a physical machine, like all the virtual machines which are being deployed, these virtual machines require 1 GB RAM and 1 core processor. So too many virtual machines can be deployed in this physical machine. If I consider only few kbps network connectivity, then you may think that too many virtual machines can be deployed in this physical machine. But the problem is, again, in architecture, according to the architecture, there are some limitation, like what kind of virtualization we are using. If we are using Gen or if we are using KVM, in both of these cases we have some limitation. The maximum number of VM that can be deployed in a physical machine is obviously limited, because some addressing is used, and these addresses have limited number of bits. Okay, so these are the cases. So deployment of a virtual machine in a physical machine is dependent on many factors. So our objective is to consolidate so that minimum number of physical machines are in active state, and rest of the physical machines will not be in active state, they will be in sleep mode. Either they will be shutted down or they will be kept in sleep mode. So if we shut down the system or if we keep the system in sleep mode, then energy consumption is either 0 or the energy consumption is very, very less. It's a nominal amount of energy consumption. So this is the major objective of green cloud computing. Okay, I think you have got your answer, or if you have anything more, then
Yes.
now we are coming to this structure. So this is basically a high level framework. So all the things we have already discussed. So these are the physical machines which are installed in data centers. So we'll try to keep the servers or the physical machines, some of these physical machines in power off mode, some of them in power on mode. Okay. So that, and we will try to allocate the virtual machines in minimum number of PM so that the energy consumption can be reduced. Now, few things we have to discuss. How will you monitor the resource usage or resource utilization? We have just mentioned in our energy model that even if we consider linear energy model, in that model we are saying the utilization of the physical machine. So how do you calculate utilization of a physical machine? So basically, utilization of a physical machine needs to be monitored. So generally we use some energy monitoring tool for this. Okay. So for performance monitoring we use Ganglia, Javix or Nagios, this type of software. Okay. For energy monitoring, generally we write script to read the energy information. It's a simply shell script which is executed to and scheduled to retrieve the energy consumption information of the system. Okay. Now we need virtual machine manager. So virtual machine manager, why it's needed? It's a very important to understand that the virtual machines are being requested by the users at runtime. So it's basically we need to schedule the virtual machines using online algorithm. Have you heard of online algorithm?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in case of online algorithm, so the requests are arriving dynamically. So they are to be provisioned at runtime. Okay. So if we want to design these online algorithms, then what we have to think that some of the physical machine, if I say that in physical machine 1 the systems are running for few hours, in physical machine 1 at the very beginning many virtual machines has been deployed and some of the virtual machines has been already shutted down. So there are some vacant spaces. Okay. So if there are some vacant spaces, at runtime always we will try to shuffle the, basically we will try to reduce number of active physical machine. So to do that, sometimes some virtual machines are to be migrated from one physical machine to another physical machine. Okay. So that some of the active physical machines can be shutted down in case of low utilization. Okay. So virtual machine manager is performing the task. Okay. So if we want to migrate a virtual machine from one physical machine to another physical machine, then VMM or virtual machine manager, using VMM we can do that. Okay. Now for each and every user's request, so these few things you have to consider. One is admission control, then SLA negotiation and service analyzer. Okay. I think by the name you can understand that how they work. So SLA negotiator, is basically during the agreement. So just if you register in Amazon Cloud or Google Cloud, during deployment of the virtual machine, or if you are deploying it in platform, then during the deployment when you have registered and you have reserved the resources, at that time you have to submit the SLA information. So based on the changes of the attributes or parameters in SLA, you will be billed. Okay. So bill will be generated according to the SLA. So the SLA negotiation is required between both of these parties, okay, user and the service provider. Now once the SLA has been defined, you have agreed with some SLA and service provider is agreed to give you the service with this minimum service level agreement. So you have mentioned that in my network I need say X Mbps of connectivity. So if you have mentioned that you require X Mbps network connectivity, then this is the minimum requirement. So always service provider will be responsible for providing this minimum level of service. Okay. So that's why SLA analyzer is a software module which is keeping track of the SLA violation. Okay. And based on that, this admission control, the overall admission control can be performed. Okay. So when a new user is submitting his or her request, then this using SLA negotiation and service analysis or service agreement analysis, the requests will be dispatched to the corresponding server, so that there is no such scenario by which the SLA is violated. Okay, so this is the overall cloud environment. Now there are some companies, and obviously there are some software modules also in case of giant service providers. We are running out of time. Okay. In case of giant service providers, so these are basically working as a cloud broker. So cloud brokers are basically performing some tasks as an intermediary. They are working as intermediary. How they work? So they are registering multiple cloud service providers. Okay. Now user is submitting, instead of directly interacting with Amazon or Google, if you choose a cloud service broker like Kavo, if you choose this, if you register there, then their application will manage everything. They will decide, as a broker, they will decide that when your request needs to be deployed in, or it is to be deployed in Amazon cloud environment, when it is to be deployed in Heroku or in Google cloud environment. So broker will work as a intermediary which is responsible for taking this decision dynamically. So this is the purpose of cloud broker. So in that case, instead of registering in Amazon or Google or to any cloud service provider directly, you can register to a broker. You can submit your service level agreement with the broker. Now broker will manage everything, and they will manage your application. They will migrate the virtual machines. If you are deploying the applications, they will migrate the applications from one VM to another VM, but based on your service level agreement. Okay, so this is basically the high level architectural style of cloud service provider.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, this cloud broker will allocate the same the applications of the same customer to different service providers like
Yeah.
Amazon.
Yeah, it can deploy.
So in that case, the pricing will be different. I mean, it can be different in case of different providers.
Obviously, at that time you will not get the price as per. You will not be billed directly from Amazon. Amazon will generate the bill for this cloud broker. So they have acquired the resources. Now your bill will be generated by the cloud broker. So prices may vary. Obviously.
Okay.
The things are technically not too hard, but obviously there are huge challenge. During my master degree, we have designed one broker by which we can access Eucalyptus cloud as well as Amazon cloud, and one cloud environment which is built on Eucalyptus. Obviously, it was Mayhem Cloud 9 in UCSB. So we have integrated this 3 cloud environment at that time. So using one broker application, we can access, or just user can submit the requirement, and accordingly the application can decide that where it is to be deployed for maximum benefit. Like you have probably have heard of spot instance. So spot instance price is not reserved. It is varying very frequently based on the demand. It's something like basically the price of the spot instances is similar to the stock exchange. So based on demand, the prices will vary. So if we use any broker, we are expecting spot instances. So, but instead of manually monitoring this every time, I can choose a broker. So broker will do that automatically. I will just mention that run my application till the price is within this range and try to optimize it. So broker application will take this responsibility. Okay. So this is the purpose of broker. Hello. Okay. So I'm closing this for today. We'll sit on Saturday. Okay. And for IT department, I will submit. I will just send you the question paper at 2 p.m. I think it was 2 or 2:30.
Yes, sir. 2.
2. Okay. I will send you the question paper at 2. Okay. Okay. Thanks for joining. We'll sit on Saturday.
Thank you, sir.